Well, Jerusalem had been judged, as Jeremiah had predicted. He said, unless Jerusalem repents of their sins, they will be judged. And judgment came. And among those that were carried captive away by Nebuchadnezzar to Babylon, 1,500 miles away, was young Daniel and his friends. They were just in their teens, and they were carried over to Babylon. And Daniel had been one of the young men that had been chosen especially by Nebuchadnezzar to be taken to Babylon and trained in his court and trained in all the arts and sciences of the Babylonians. Now, when this chapter opens, Nebuchadnezzar is dead. Daniel had been a friend and a prophet and a prime minister for Nebuchadnezzar, the great king. But now he's in more or less been forgotten, because a young man is now on the throne by the name of Belshazzar, who was the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, the great king. Now, Babylon at that time was the greatest empire in the world. It was the most powerful nation in the world. It was the richest nation in the world. And the Bible pictures Belshazzar the king as young, rich, powerful, but at the same time egotistical.
The board cheated the system. They cheated the system. 9 out of 10 people claim asylum at the southern border last decade. The cartels teach them what to say and what to claim. They come make that claim, get released. They get ordered, moved, never leave. If the message we want to send to the whole world is enter the country illegally, which is a crime, make a false asylum claim, lose your case, but you get to stay. No one's looking for you. You're never going to solve this problem. And with at least 10.5 million people come to the border patrol's overwhelmed.
The survivor side is I go to the hospitals and I get to see face to face. I sit at their hospital beds. I pray with them. I talk with them because it's what I've done basically all my life. But now it's in a way that I can say, how can we make sure we're doing it the best we can? We got great employees who do great things, but many times the VA as a building, as an organization, has become too unwieldy, because if you get so large, you just sort of take care of yourself, you forget your mission. Well, for me, it came back saying, what is our mission? It's a service organization, not an employment agency, not anything else. It's a service agency that says our one group is veterans. That's who we're going to take care of. So compassion is just reaching out and having the empathy that you would want somebody else to show to you.
So you are a veteran,
yes.
Were a veteran before becoming the VA secretary. So along with that, when you go to the hospital and you're talking to veterans or at events, how much of that sort of informs and inspires what you do, and what have been some of the biggest takeaways from what you're hearing from the folks?
Oh, it inspires everything, because you speak a common language. And I think that's an interesting part for the younger veterans I've had, and we will talk. I was in Iraq, and I can say, if I hear they're an Iraq veteran, say, well, hey, where were you at? Where were you at? And sometimes we'll have crossed the same dirt, so to speak, and so that makes it just an instant connection. But we can talk about things that were in my purview, the 23 plus years that I've been in, but then also going back to our Vietnam veterans, our Korean veterans, our World War II precious veterans who are still around with us, and even our Gulf Storm and the others. It's a commonality of military experience. It's a commonality of going through some of the same things. You know what your family's going through. You went through a basic training. You went through somebody yelling at you. You learned how to put on a uniform. You learned that you march in a straight line. For Air Force, well, we're not at my other branches, and it's that sort of give and take. So they'll pick on me, I get to pick on them, but we're speaking a similar language. I think that matters so much when we're talking, because they want to be heard, and it's important for our doctors and our nurses also to speak that language too. So if they say, a veteran says, I was at a FOB, and they don't understand what they're talking about, well, that's a forward operating base. They need to understand that language, because that's the way they communicate. So being a veteran and having a lot of veterans that work with us is very, very important.
So another very serious issue that I'd like to discuss with you, which is so many of the veterans that come back have an invisible wound, which is that of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Last month, your department announced $52 million in grants for local organizations for suicide prevention. What is it that the public should know about PTSD and our veterans?
I think the biggest thing they need to know is that one, it is real, and it can come up in different ways in different people. It doesn't have to be something that they experience every moment of the day. There's some that it pops up at different times. There's some that it is debilitating, that they can't go to work or they can't function in a family. It causes relationships to get strained. And then for some, it could be much more infrequent, but it still causes hardships between relational issues more than any. What we're looking at is people need to know that there's a lot of times people just need to be reached out to. That there might be a way that you can fix anything going on, but you can be there to listen. You can be there to talk. You can be there to remind them that there is a purpose in living. And I think because PTS and traumatic brain injury, which goes along with that, is very difficult. Chronic pain. We have a lot of our members who have been multiple deployments. They come back and they have pain that just is with them all the time. They need the surrounding people to understand sort of what they're going through to help them get through each and every day, because if not, they lose hope. When they lose hope, that is the first and classic, slide into death by suicide, which is still way too prevalent in our country now among veterans.
What would your message be to those veterans who may, be in a situation where they don't know where to go and may feel like they're being forgotten?
Reach out anywhere. Reach out to the VA. Go to the hospital. Go to a clinic. Dial 988. That's our veteran crisis line. All they have to do is hit 1, and somebody's there to talk to them every day, every minute of the year. They can have somebody to talk to. Don't feel like they're alone. But it's going to take. It's also something for our other folks in our communities to understand. If you know of a veteran, if you know somebody that says maybe they're not acting right. A lot of us have text chain with our friends, our buddies. If someone stops communicating on a text chain, reach out why. They may not have been a veteran, but if they are a veteran, they may want to know why they stopped communicating. That could be a moment that they're struggling. So it's not just the veteran themselves who struggle, and for them to reach out. We're going to give them every opportunity, but I think it's a community, whether it's the VA or our nonprofit groups or VSOs or anybody else, to reach out and make sure that we're reaching those that may not be able to speak for themselves right now.
I think you make many really important points, but something that strikes me, having 2 childhood friends who are twins, both of them going into the military, you talk about it affecting different people. They were largely the same person, looked the same. One of them committed suicide. The other one is perfectly fine, both seeing the same action.